welcome to Bharata First. You're watching Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. First, let me inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center, an initiative that will help each one of you in your competitive exams and transform the way you learn. We have started international relations, Indian art and culture, and several other short courses, and there's so much more that we have to offer. All these offerings have had a phenomenal response. You too can be a part of this incredible journey. Go to our website, kc.bharatafirst.com for more details and register now. The introductory offer ends on the 31st of July, so register right now. Since you're here, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do subscribe to our newsletter as well so that you can get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs a daily Big Picture quiz. Please participate by going through the description in Big Picture videos. For those of you who like the content, please contribute to keep it alive. The links are in the description. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. And now on to the discussion. The center has given its assurance that Karnataka will not be allowed to carry out any construction on the Mekedatu Dam project on the Cauvery River until its detailed project report is approved by the Cauvery Water Management Authority, according to members of an all-party delegation from Tamil Nadu who met Jal Shakti Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat on Friday. Earlier this month, Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yeddyurappa announced plans to go forward with the long-pending project, aggravating Tamil Nadu's concerns that their farmers further downstream will be affected. In what seemed a rebuff to Karnataka's ambitions, Shekhawat said all parties must adhere to the approvals procedure that has been clearly laid down for such projects. The political parties in Karnataka have come together on the same page and have put aside their differences and have said that the Mekedatu project is a must for the state and have decided to go ahead with it. In this edition of Big Picture, we will analyze why the Cauvery issue is in the news. Joining me on the program today are Shivapriyan ETB, political journalist and special correspondent of Deccan Herald; Professor S. Janakarajan, former professor, Madras Institute of Development Studies, Chennai; and Joseph Hoover, independent journalist and convener, United Conservation Movement. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Big Picture. Joseph Hoover, I'd like to start the program with you first. Let's first analyze and understand why the Cauvery issue is in the news yet again. It's an issue that has been going on for several years and a few decades now. We have not been able to find some kind of a real solution to the problem. Both the states, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, are speaking about it. The center too is keeping a keen eye and a close watch on the developments. What's the latest, and why is it that the Cauvery issue is in the news yet again?
I mean, the way I look at it, it's basically political. Karnataka started it all over again, needlessly. And now Tamil Nadu has begun to keep the pot boiling. But what really disturbs is that, from both states, be it Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, they don't seem to understand the ecological damage that's going to create. Just for political reasons, you keep drumming up and sensitizing people to create more noise. Already there have been protests in Tamil Nadu. There will be protests soon in Karnataka because these politicians will never rest. They need to understand this has been an issue for a very, very long time and nothing has happened and nothing should happen. We cannot allow our ecosystem, our river ecology to be damaged any further. We have done enough damage. We are already facing the consequences of the destruction that we've caused. Somewhere I would take it forward to tell these politicians, enough is enough. You have done enough damage. You have enough and more money to relax. Just live on that. Don't destroy our forests. Don't destroy our river ecology. As it is, we are losing, acres and acres of forests, pristine forests. Now, if this Mekedatu issue comes just for a political reason, we are going to lose a lot of forest land. There's going to be the forests are going to be submerged, and the 5 villages are also going to be submerged. Other than that, if you look at it, the kind of damage, ecological damage, is going to be irreparable. You cannot put your finger on that and say this is the damage is going to be like this. We have seen what has happened in the past. There have been great examples. And if we are not learning even from that at this stage, I think we are nothing less than fools. And I would definitely call our politicians out and tell them, listen, you guys have gone beyond your brief. Your job is to protect us, to take care of our interests. Just to get 135 liters of water for the household in Bangalore, which can be easily tapped if you have rainwater harvesting done, and spending 9,000 crores on that, the same money could be diverted for a good cause, could be invested for developing your lakes. That is going to be a reservoir. So you need to come out of this gamemanship of saying, see, in Karnataka, what happens? It's a Congress versus BJP issue. And now all the parties have come together. They're all become brothers, comrades kind of thing. These things keep happening, and then what happens? People get agitated, and we have seen how this Cauvery issue has been embroiled in controversy over a period of time. There have been strikes across the borders. People don't allow people from Karnataka go to Tamil Nadu. People from Tamil Nadu are not allowed into Karnataka. This is ridiculous. And this is what God has given us. Nothing any of the guys have done this. None of the politicians have done. Neither of our bureaucrats have done, or even our engineers. There could be some measures of saying that diverting a little bit of water, creating canals and all this stuff. But this particular project will be destructive. It cannot be done. It should not be done. And from our from the movement that we have, we will definitely go all out to say that we don't need this. There's enough water for Bangalore.
Absolutely.
Bangalore can get water if you do the rainwater harvesting properly. It's such a sad commentary that there are merely 1.55 lakh people who are doing rainwater harvesting in Bangalore.
Absolutely.
And there are more than 6 crore people living in Bangalore alone. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah. We'll talk about that at length. We'll come back to this particular issue on what is being done and what isn't being done and how we can do without this project even. But first, the project itself. Professor, let me come across to you. Let's talk about this Mekedatu project. And why is it that, there is one section who says that we need it, the other section talking about why we don't need it. What are your thoughts on this entire issue?
In the first instant, I would like to completely endorse what Joseph has said. In addition to that, I tell you, leave alone the ecological reasons. Yes, it's a huge issue. In fact, just to add what Joseph has said, the dense forest area where Mekedatu Dam is going to come up, what is the extent of land that's going to be submerged? 52.54 square kilometers. That is the kind of a land that you are going to, acquire. And it's a 52.54 square kilometers, a huge area. It's a dense forest, a flora, fauna, and this wildlife sanctuary. It's all going to get damaged. And what is the cost? What is the cost of the ecosystems? What is that we are going to lose? Who is going to really understand that? Because it is just not the point of a one-time loss. It is going to have a cumulative impact on the society and on the ecology. So I think it's something very important in the context of what Joseph has said. In addition to that, I must tell you, river has to have a flow. You can't have a series of dams wherever you can, wherever you think you will have obstruction and interventions. I mean, river will not flow. I think river and ecosystem has to survive. Already the Cauvery River is dead or dying with lots of problems, and with so many dams and with so much of a sediment deposit, and the downstream there is no water flow at all, except once in 5-6 years when there is a flood, water flows. Otherwise, it's just stuck. There's no water. Now, the key issue that I would like to emphasize here is, do you really need a dam of this kind? And you call it a balancing reservoir. What is that you are going to achieve in that region? And you're saying that you are going to really supply to, Bangalore. Already, as per the tribunal and as per the Supreme Court order, the Tamil Nadu's share of 192 teams feet is reduced by something like 14 teams feet, and what Tamil Nadu get now is only 177.25. The rest is really going to be given to Bangalore city for the drinking purpose. In addition to that, now you want to have a reservoir, call it a balancing reservoir for supply to groundwater. I mean, the supply to Bangalore city. I mean, this I cannot understand because with this dam construction there, if it is going to be materializing, if it materializes, the downstream part of the river will not survive. I must tell you, the Cauvery basin is already a deficit basin. What you need is actually to the extent of something like 1,150 or 1,250 TMC of water, but at a 50% dependability, what you have is 740 TMC. So that 740 TMC is now reshared with time and again. And today you want to again have one more intervention and take away the water. What is going to happen to the downstream? I think it's going to create a very serious livelihood problem, very serious ecological problem, and also it is going to raise an ethical issue. I mean, the Chief Minister of Karnataka, all said and done, with so much of experience, political experience, should not have made a statement of that kind in the floor of Karnataka Assembly, saying that I will at any cost construct the Mekedatu Dam at 9,000 crores. It has created such a lot of anxiety, in Tamil Nadu, because Tamil Nadu Cauvery is now the lifeline. I must tell you one important fact. Between 1986-87 to 2017-18, if you really calculate the water that is realized at Biligundlu, it is, most of the years it is less than what is prescribed, because the major part of the water has to come during the months June to October, in these five months. During these months, in most of the years, the water that was realized at Biligundlu was much less than what was prescribed by the tribunal. Now, in which case, if there is going to be a reservoir, one more reservoir, then it is really going to become a very serious issue. And I must tell you, this reservoir is going to have a dead storage of 7.7 TMC. The dead storage 7.7, which is a very critical. That much of that much of water is going to be stored. If that is stored, there is going to be no downstream flow, because you are retaining retention of 7.75 TMC in the Mekedatu reservoir is going to affect the downstream flow very seriously, because 177 would mean again 169, 160, 170, so much less. So dead storage is so much. I mean, if there is a dead storage, you can't call it a balancing reservoir. It is very much a storage reservoir. I think the Karnataka government should have a rethink on it. Please have an ecological perspective. Please have the understand the livelihood problems of Tamil Nadu, and we have to work as a collective to find a good solution. And instead of finding that, you cannot take a unilateral decision without consulting the downstream state and keep constructing dams of your choice. I think it's not a good idea, and it's in bad taste.
Absolutely. Shivapriyan, let me bring you into the picture now. Let's talk about the politics of this particular issue, because there have been political statements coming in both from Karnataka, from Tamil Nadu, and from the center as well. How much of this is politics, and what is it that they would like to achieve through this?
Yeah, Frank, like our panelists said, I agree with them that this is completely politicized. This is not an issue that is really out of people's interest, in the sense like usually it is Karnataka which starts this issue of whenever in the past 3 years, I think this is the third or the fourth time that Karnataka is raking up this issue, saying that we will go ahead with the Mekedatu project without even Tamil Nadu's permission. The Tamil Nadu's contention here is that I think Tamil Nadu has a fair share of truth in what it says. It says that the Cauvery Water Disputes Tribunal final award and the Supreme Court, which reduced it, as pointed out by Professor Janakarachan. So it is already reduced. The reduced quantity of water already goes to Bangalore. So Tamil Nadu says, if you keep reducing our water, the quantum of water that is given to us, what will happen to us? Already it is a known fact that Cauvery is a deficit river. No way it can be a surplus river. So it is up to the farmers of both states and the governments to use the water judiciously. Whatever the water is available in the basin, it has to be used judiciously. So as far as the politics is concerned, Tamil Nadu's stand has always been there, that no construction can happen in the Cauvery basin without the permission of Tamil Nadu. So see, let me point out that there are demands for the Tamil Nadu government to construct a reservoir in Rasi Manal in Tamil Nadu too, before it gets into Mettur. So Tamil Nadu has been resisting those attempts for the past few decades. So now, as far as Tamil Nadu's stand is concerned, they say that if a new reservoir comes up across Cauvery just before the water reaches Biligundulu, which is the entry point of the Cauvery into Tamil Nadu. So if a reservoir is built just before Biligundulu, it will affect the water flow. In the sense, like now, if we take like our previous speakers pointed out, our panelists, they said that Karnataka has always been faulted for not releasing water on time. Even in the past 3 or 4 years, if you take, it has been releasing excess water because there has been a surplus monsoon in the past few years. So that is the water that is released. So the fear here is that once the water from KRS or Kabini is released, it may get stored in Mekedatu, and only after Mekedatu flows with surplus water, the surplus water will be released to Tamil Nadu. So that is the fear here. The Chief Minister and the entire, it is actually very rare to see both ADMK and DMK coming together. So this time they have come. And they've also held a Hall Party meeting. So the Water Resources Minister went to Delhi and told them that Karnataka should not be allowed to go ahead with the detailed project report. And here, the Tamil Nadu's point of view is that there is no need for a reservoir in Mekedatu because it is very close to the entry point from where the Cauvery flows into Tamil Nadu. So there is no need for you to store water just before it reaches Tamil Nadu. So Tamil Nadu feels that it is kind of a move to prevent or to deny its rightful share of water. If you take the 2018 Supreme Court verdict has clearly mentioned things about how these states should use the water. It has also reduced the quantum of water to Tamil Nadu. And it is like very it is actually politicized in the sense like everywhere it is politicized. But in Karnataka, I think the BJP government is is raking it up, this maybe to divert attention from its own mistakes. But it has also happened under the Congress rules. Now the Congress seems to be very vociferous in demanding that the reservoir has to be built even without the concurrence of the Tamil Nadu government. So I don't think this project can take place or can see the light of the day without concurrence from the lower riparian states, because the lower riparian states' rights and the farmers' rights should also be considered and should also be given utmost importance, because as Professor Janakarajan pointed out, Cauvery is the lifeline of farmers in the Cauvery Delta region. So sure. Only for the past 2 years, that is in 2020 and 2021, farmers are able to actually cultivate a short-term crop called kuruvai in the past 2 years only. So that is because the dam, there is a scheduled date for opening of Mettur Dam, that is June 12. So only for the after 8 years, the dam was opened on June 12 only in 2020, and this year the tradition was continued because there was water in the Mettur Dam for it to be released for irrigation. Sure. So I think the interests of the farmers in Tamil Nadu should also be kept in mind, because both states share Cauvery water. Both Cauvery runs from all these it starts from Karnataka and runs into Tamil Nadu. So I think both states, the chief ministers should leave all their egos, all their political stands, and sit across the table and decide what is good for them. Maybe it is better that Karnataka puts this project on hold, because it is also, I think even the neutral experts tend to agree that this project cannot be carried out without Tamil Nadu's concurrence, because Tamil Nadu will be the worst affected if this project comes out, Frank.
Absolutely. Joseph, we're coming back to you now. Let's talk about, what's being done apart from the politics. We'll keep politics aside, and let's talk about how do we remedy the situation and what can be the possible solutions.
See, one way of looking at is it can be resolved. I mean, as panelists earlier said, both the states can sit across, amicably settle this issue. But within us, the people of Karnataka, who are especially the Bangaloreans, they need to look at it as an individual problem, not just state problem. They need to say that we can resolve this problem by even making our effort to do something about it. Bangalore has grown big. In the last 15 years, it has spread its wings and beyond. There's not much water for people who are living in the rural areas, especially the areas which have been extended of late. What people need to do right now is to ensure that there's rainwater harvesting. Bangalore is blessed to receive good amount of rain. From June to maybe even October end, we get good amount of rain. So this needs to be driven. Each of us needs to take up the responsibility in saying that we need to do something about ourselves for our own future. Let the politicians battle it out. Let them do whatever they do for their political gain. But let's take responsibility. Each of us needs to step in and say, let's start doing at least, have a rainwater harvesting system put in your house, in your households, or even your farms, anywhere, wherever you can get. And each citizen has to take it upon himself to engage with the government, even pressurize the government, the bureaucrats especially, and ensure that the lakes are intact. Bangalore at one point of time had a number of lakes. Today we basically have the less than about 200 lakes which can talk, which can have storage capacity. So that is where something which is disturbing. People, we ourselves are not doing what we should be doing. They're only talking about our problems, but we're not addressing it. We are not doing what we should be doing. We're all educated. It's all common sense that if we all put our minds together, we can do that. But that's not coming. Somehow there are very few civil groups who take up the issue, and then the public memory being very short, it just falls apart. This has to be a sustained effort. It has to go on and on and on. I remember the Jal Shakti ministry had come up with a program called Aakhri Boond. There was a great panel discussion. There was a lot of grandiose about the event, saying that every drop of water should be saved. But that happened 2 years ago, and we don't hear about it. So these are things which have to be sustained. It has to be kept being told to people regularly. Now listen to what happens with Corona. The TV, the media went bonkers over that, driving the fear into people. If the same media could tell people to do this, it can be achieved. It's not difficult. Now people are rattled. The moment you talk about Corona, you cough, people are running away from you. So this fear psychosis has to be driven into us, into our genes right now, because we are doing nothing about it. We are just sitting and just talking big, make a lot of noise. We curse somebody else other than we ourselves are at fault, but we try to blame somebody else. Our politicians, we can control them as long as we take it upon ourselves and say, listen, you are being given power for 5 years. You've taken the oath and the constitution to look after our interests, our natural resources. So just stick with that. You have no business to destroy what has already been given to us by God. So this is something that we need to do, and we are not doing. It's such a difficult thing to even tell people to even talk about it. That doesn't happen. The media, of course, it's got its own agendas. I'm a former journalist, but I feel ashamed now that the media is not driving it. When you can drive the fear of Corona that will kill you, why can't you talk to the people, drive it into them about the ecological issues, talking about the way we are going through. Everybody knows Corona has been related to lack of biodiversity. So why can't this be driven? Let awaken people, tell them our forests have to be intact, our lakes have to be intact, our natural resources have to be intact. We need to do that. And somewhere we are lacking. That's frustrating, actually. We do our bit, we make a lot of noise. We become anti-nationals, we become every kind of thing again, the government calls us. But we don't care, but we need to do what we need to do. But we want more people involved, so that is where we can drive it. And let's start within. That's what I would appeal to people.
Sure. So it has to be a people's movement, and it has to start from within, is what Joseph Hoover is suggesting. Professor Janakarajan, let me come back to you now. Let's talk about a couple of issues. One, of course, whenever we talk about the Cauvery issue, the governments conveniently bring up the issue of drinking water and how drinking water should take precedence over everything else. That is one. Secondly, have efforts been made to change the cropping patterns both in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu? Why aren't we focusing on that?
I think it's a very good question. The first to answer to your first question, I must tell you that the drinking water problems exist in all cities in the country today. In fact, Niti Aayog have designated 12 cities in the country, which includes cities like Ahmedabad, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Mumbai, and so on. And they say that in the course of next 10, 15 years, these cities are going to reach what is called the 0 day, meaning there is going to be zero groundwater. Okay, there's going to be huge water crisis in all the cities. So it's just not Bangalore and Chennai. Many big cities in the country are going to face this huge problem. And remember, these cities are also the huge manufacturing and commercial business hub. And which means if these cities don't have water, the economy will collapse. Let's keep that in mind. But at the same time, is there not any way, way to really mitigate the situation? Actually, we are blind. I agree with Joseph. We are absolutely blind. Because if you look at the data for the last 100, 150 years, the total rainfall has not come down, but the number of rainy days has come down. Instead of getting the rainfall in 30, 40 days, now you get the rainfall in 25 days. Now you have to adapt yourself. Why are you not adapting yourself? So this is one of the most important issues. Secondly, I must tell you, in cities like Bangalore, there are issues which the government should attend to immediately. Not just Bangalore, even Delhi, Chennai also. It's because the government can make claim that they are supplying something like 1,200 million liters per day at the point where they release the water. But then at the ultimate consumer level, when you go and ask them, total water that they release does not reach the consumers. What happened to the balance? Something like a 40%, up to 40% is the leakage loss. So what is your difficulty in arresting this leakage loss? So we are losing water in the leakages. Secondly, in the entire world today, are mitigating that water problem through treatment, treating the used water. I call it used water because I don't want to call it a wastewater. Used water is retrievable up to 90-95%. Only 5% is a slag. So when you have that possibility, when you have the best technology available in the world, why is that you are not in a position to use the technology to treat the water? So treating water is the best solution. Even in England, you go to big cities like London, Oxford, Cambridge, and so on, and big cities like in the US, they are all mitigating their water problems, drinking water problem, through treating the used water. Why is that we are not in a position to do that? Because when you say that you are supplying 1,200 MLD, 800 MLD, 900 MLD can be retrieved easily through a simple technology with a little bit of with a little investment. Why is that we are not in a position to do that? So all that we believe in is a major investment, big project, construct a dam so that you mitigate your problem. I don't think Mekedatu, even if it is constructed, is going to resolve the problem of Bangalore city for years to come, because there are problems of pumping and so on, and leave alone that. And the other key issue is that the downstream farmers, as you said rightly, are primarily dependent upon agriculture. Now, isn't it that necessary for them to really do the cropping pattern changes and do up-to-date water management strategies to save water? For your information, it is being done. Because earlier, most of the delta districts, primarily Tanjavur, Tiruvarur, Nagapattinam, parts of Pudukkottai, and parts of Trichy, were all growing paddy. Today, believe me, it is only in parts of Nagapattinam and Tiruvarur they are growing paddy because the soil condition is not suitable for any other crop. We call it a plastic clay. It is a plastic clay where no other crop will come up. But in other parts of the delta, something like a 50-60% of the delta, now people have shifted to pulses, vegetables, and even in some places they are growing cotton and sugarcane. So lots of changes have taken place in terms of cropping pattern. People are doing it. But still, I have been advocating that you can introduce new water management strategies where you can save water and you can use water frugally and you can really increase the productivity. And that is a possibility. That possibility exists in Karnataka also. Karnataka, major part of the water is used for sugarcane, which requires year-long water supply. 10 to 12 months water supply you need. But they also have to really have a rethink on this kind of changes in the cropping pattern so that no one can think about saving the water because please remember, things are changing. For ecological reasons, environmental reasons, hydrological reasons, for socio-political reasons, lots of transformations are taking place in this society.
Sure.
And you cannot forever keep it up, saying that, look, I'm going to grow only paddy or I'm going to grow only sugarcane. People have to change. There are lots of things one can do. And most importantly, for urban water, you need to have a rethink. And as Joseph said, lots of water can be stored through rainwater harvesting. I must tell you, in cities like Tokyo and big cities in Japan, they are creating underground reservoir because they know the land surface. Whereas we are killing the reservoirs which are located available on ground, on surface, and we are encroaching, we are destroying, but then we are going for big projects like dams. I think this is ridiculous. We have to have a rethink and change of mind.
Absolutely. Shivapran, let me come back to you now. As far as this entire issue is concerned, how is the center looking at it? How is the Water Commission looking at it? And is a serious solution in sight?
See, I think it's the responsibility of the center to bring about a solution to this problem. Because if you see the center's attitude towards this particular issue, it has been very, I can even use the word complicit, because if you see the Cauvery River Water Management Authority was formed in 2018, and till now it doesn't have a full-time chairperson. But if you ask the BJP leaders, they say as it affected any functioning of the authority. So that's not the right answer. See, the center has to be more proactive in bringing these two states together on the negotiating table, talk to them, find out a solution which will be beneficial to both. What the center does is it meets delegations from both the states, and then the ministers make statements that would actually be saleable in the respective states. For example, if you see, after coming out of the meeting, the Karnataka chief minister and the Karnataka ministers have always said, he has assured us that he will allow us to do the DPR. When the Tamil Nadu delegation goes and meets the same minister, Shakti minister, Mr. Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, they come out and say that no, he has told us that Karnataka will not be allowed to do the DPR without consulting Tamil Nadu. So these are the kind of conflicting statements that come out from the meetings. Of course, the minister has to cater to the audience of the respective states too. But I think center should be very proactive in this. There have been precedents in the past where the prime ministers have called for meetings of chief ministers of both the states, spoken to them. Not much has come out of those meetings, but that doesn't mean that we have to shun dialogue and keep doing the political posturing alone. I think the center, the prime minister should call both Mr. B.S. Yeddyurappa from Karnataka and Mr. M.K. Stalin from Tamil Nadu, talk to them and also come out with a long-term solution for this, because Tamil Nadu and Karnataka cannot keep fighting for long, because these two states share a lot of things in common culturally and everything. So if you see, the traffic between Chennai and Bangalore is one of the highest if you take by air, by train, or by road. So we cannot be, these two states cannot keep fighting for long on this Cauvery issue. So some solution has to come. I think if I go back, we have been fighting on it since the 1970s. No solution has arrived, because if you see economically also, when there is a flare-up either in Tamil Nadu or in Karnataka, the economy and the people also gets affected a lot. If you see in 2016 or 17, when this issue, the Cauvery issue came up in the Supreme Court, I think in 2016, a lot of buses were burned, and in Tamil Nadu also, some of the institutions managed by Kannadigas were actually attacked by some lesser known groups. So this cannot go on and on for long, because because these two are neighboring states and they need to have a very good relationship between them, and that should be a amicable solution to it, and that solution can come only from a proactive central government. Absolutely. It cannot be done by any of these two states. And the BJP, since the BJP is in power in Karnataka and also in center, the BJP should take the proactive steps in calling both the chief ministers, the prime minister and the union water resources minister can sit with them and talk to them and see what can be done. See, there will be a solution for it. There can be a middle ground on which both the states can agree. But my limited point is this can't go on and on, because it has repercussions in terms of politics, in terms of economy, and in terms of the relationship between the two states too.
Absolutely. All right. Time to get quick closing comments now from all my panelists with the best way forward, starting first with you, Joseph Hoover.
Yeah, first and foremost, rather than worrying about Mekedatu, I think all of us need to focus on saving our Western Ghats. If the Western Ghats are not saved, where is the water going to come from? Then we can fight over the water. So first I would suggest that all of us, every person on earth, especially in India, should make an effort to save the Western Ghats. Only if the Western Ghats is saved, water will be in Mekedatu, then they can have a dam or whatever they want to do. Because let's concentrate on that. And this has to be resolved. As panelists have said, this can be amicably settled. And we are good citizens. I mean, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka have always had a great relationship that has to be maintained. And it can be resolved. And all that takes us, we the people, need to step in and do something about it. First save the Western Ghats, and then think about whether there's going to be water in the Cauvery Basin. And also our great Home Minister and made a statement saying that if we don't do that, don't build the dam, the water will run into the sea. He doesn't even understand what is the ecological value of that. So all these guys need to be first educated. We need to make an effort to first educate them also as well. We need to also educate them other than saving our Western Ghats.
Absolutely. Professor?
Yeah.
Best way forward.
Way forward is something like this. For so many years, for the last 50, 60 years, the Cauvery issue has been so excessively politicized. And when I use the word competitive populism and competitive politics drove the Cauvery issue for so long. I don't think we should do that anymore. I think my humble request to all the chief ministers, concerned chief ministers, and to the center is that it is a people's issue, and it's a people's livelihood issue, and it's a very important ecological issue, and therefore I request them not to politicize it anymore and try to resolve it as quickly as possible. And I must also tell you that the drinking water is a problem not just for Bangalore city, for all major cities in the country today. There are alternative ways. There are alternative mechanisms which can really contribute to saving Bangalore or any other city from the crisis. And they have to do that. They have to attempt to doing that. As I suggested before, I think most importantly, they should try and store as much water as possible in all the major tanks around the city, all cities, more so Bangalore, because these are very, very important rainwater harvesting structures. And secondly, they have to understand that leakages in the drinking water supply pipeline network should be arrested, and they save a lot of water. And thirdly, try and use the proper treatment technology and recycle the water. I think these are the issues. These are the very important concerns which the government should attend to immediately.
Absolutely. And Shivprem, close the show for us with a quick concluding remark.
Yes, see, basically what I began by saying that Cauvery is a deficit river. It cannot be made into a surplus river. So we need to use the water judiciously, and both states not just the government, but farmers also should think out, or should come out with out of the box ideas to use the water judiciously and also to save the Cauvery river. So it is imperative on us to save the river. And one point which I mentioned forgetting in the beginning is that the river is highly polluted too. So I think the focus is on fighting out these issues and not on real issues like the pollution that is actually quite rampant from Talakaveri to beyond Metur and Kirud, Karur, and so on. So like if you see, we'll have to focus on reducing pollution within this river also, and also use the water, whatever is available judiciously. And it is imperative on both Tamil Nadu and Karnataka to sit together, and it is very, very important for the center to bring these two states together on the negotiating table and actually thrash out a solution so that this issue doesn't keep coming up for political reasons every now and then, so
Absolutely.
that our energy, time, and water, everything is saved.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.
Thank you.
Well, what's coming out of this discussion is that the Cauvery issue is a long and complex one. Right now, it seems like it is nothing but a game of political one-upmanship between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. The decision is not well thought out, and the political parties in both the states are playing on the sentiments of the general public. There is no doubt that there is a water shortage issue that needs to be addressed, but the dam is not the solution. We need to focus on other methods of water conservation like rainwater harvesting. The cropping patterns in both the states also need to be changed with immediate effect. The dam will also cause widespread ecological damage that needs to be factored in. The onus is on individuals to see the big picture and make a difference, bearing in mind that our future generations too need the water. Before I go, let me once again inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center, an initiative that will help each one of you in your competitive exams and transform the way you learn. We have started international relations and Indian art and culture classes along with several other short courses, and we've had a phenomenal response. There's so much more that we have to offer as well, and you can be a part of this incredible journey too. Go to our website kc.bharatafirst.com for more details and register now. The introductory offer ends on 31st July, so make full use of it. Since you're here, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do subscribe to our newsletter as well to get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs a big picture quiz. Please participate by going through the description in big picture videos. If you like the content, contribute and keep it alive, the links are in the description. All this information along with some must-see recommendations are in the description of the video. Please go through it. That's it from me. See you again next time.